Hello friends, welcome to Tathya Current Affairs. Let's begin. The history as on 7th August. So in the year 1960, Cote d'Ivoire, that is Ivory Coast, gained independence. Ivory Coast is basically a country located in West Africa. It was a French colony for over 6 decades. Ivory Coast became one of France's most prosperous territories in Africa. The path to independence was shaped by a combination of internal nationalist movements as well as a broader decolonization trends across Africa. As you can see in the top right corner, that is a flag of Ivory Coast. So, what is the colonial history? It was officially colonized by France in the year 1893. It became part of French West Africa. The French administration developed the region's agricultural sector. It focused on coffee, coca, and palm oil production. It turned Ivory Coast into one of the wealthiest territories in the region. The colony's economy was largely driven by French settlers and large corporations. It led to significant economic disparity and social tensions between locals and rulers. So, what was the road to independence for Ivory Coast? So, after World War II, nationalist sentiments began to grow in Ivory Coast. It was influenced by broader African decolonization movements. Felix Boigny, who was a key political figure, rose as a leading voice for autonomy. He founded the African Democratic Rally in the year 1946. This rally basically played a vital role in advocating for independence across French West Africa. Post-war period basically saw gradual political reforms by the French. These reforms included the 1956 Louis Cadre, which granted limited self-governance to colonies. It allowed leaders like Felix to gain more political power and push for full independence. So finally, it gained independence from France. Felix became country's first president, a position he would hold on for more than 3 decades. His leadership was marked by a policy of close cooperation with France. It helped this relationship between Ivory Coast and France helped maintain political stability and economic growth in Ivory Coast in the early years of independence. Under his leadership, Ivory Coast pursued a pro-Western foreign policy. The country became one of the most stable and prosperous countries in West Africa. Significant investments were made in infrastructure, education, and health. So, the significance and legacy. Ivory Coast became one of the most important and highest economic powerhouses due to high agricultural exports. It faced challenges related to political and ethnic divisions. Later, it led to instability and civil conflict in the early 2000s. However, early years under Felix was remembered as a period of peace and development. Precedent for other French colonies in Africa in terms of transition from independence was set by Ivory Coast. In the year 1998, US embassy bombings took place in East Africa. Two coordinated truck bomb explosions occurred at US embassies in Nairobi in Kenya and Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. The bombings orchestrated by the terrorist group Al Qaeda. This resulted in death of 224 people, including 12 Americans, and injured over 4,000 people. These attacks marked a significant escalation in Al Qaeda's campaign against the United States. It brought global attention to the threat posed by the group. So the bombings took place. The first place was in Nairobi, Kenya. The first bombing took place at 10:30 a.m. local time in Nairobi. The truck was loaded with explosives, detonated outside the US embassy. It caused massive destruction. The explosion killed 213 people, including 12 Americans, injured approximately 4,000 persons. This blast caused damage to nearby buildings and trapped many victims under the rubble. The second bombing took place in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania just 10 minutes after the Nairobi attack. It exploded at the US Embassy in Dar es Salaam. This blast killed 11 people and injured 85 others. Although casualties were much lower as compared to Nairobi, the attack still caused significant damage. This damage was caused to the embassy and the surrounding areas. So, who are the perpetrators and what was their motive? The attacks were carried out by Al Qaeda, which was led by Osama bin Laden. The bombings were part of a broader strategy to target US interests abroad. The attacks were driven by bin Laden's opposition to US presence in the Middle East. The bombings were a result of meticulous planning and coordination by the Al Qaeda operatives. The trucks used in the attacks were packed with large amounts of TNT and other explosives. The attackers timed explosions to maximize the casualties and draw international attention. So, what was the consequences of these bombings? The bombings basically shocked the world and highlighted the growing threat of international terrorism. The US government responded by launching Operation Infinite Reach. This operation involved missile strikes on Al Qaeda targets in Afghanistan and Sudan. Strikes aimed to dismantle groups' infra but had limited long-term impact. Several individuals involved in the attacks were apprehended and brought to justice in USA. These trials resulted in multiple convictions and life sentences for those who were found guilty. Bombings marked a turning point in US counterterrorism policy. These attacks underscored the need for a more robust response to the growing threat of international terrorism. It led to increased security measures at US embassies worldwide and placed a greater emphasis on tracking and disrupting terrorist networks. Legacy: 1998 embassy bombings were often seen as a precursor to the September 11, 2001 attacks, which took place on the Twin Towers in USA. It showed Al Qaeda's capability to carry out large scale attacks against the US interests. It foreshadowed the devastating attacks that would follow 3 years later. The bombing victims are commemorated annually in the United States. It serves as a reminder of the dangers of international terrorism and the ongoing struggle against extremist violence. These attacks played a crucial role in shaping counterterrorism efforts in the 21st century. Thank you so much, guys. Please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.